Hi, my name is Chelsea Montes, and I'm here with my fellow friend Danny. And for my final project, we created a podcast where we'll be discussing the themes of imperialism, novum, the moon, invention and body hacking, utopias, dystopias, and utopias, and the Gaia hypothesis in science fiction and the connection between them and classics of study. We will be going over each theme, their definition, and how that theme relates to our readings and the study of classics as a whole. The first theme we will be looking at is imperialism, which for those of us who don't know,
Me.
is a policy of extending a country's power and influence through diplomacy or military force. Now let's discuss the theme of imperialism in the imaginary journey Lucian took us on in his A True History or A True Story. The narrative begins with Lucian and his fellow travelers journeying out past the Pillar of Heracles when they are blown off course by a storm. They then come to an island with a river of wine and trees that look like women. After leaving that island, they are caught up by a whirlwind and taken to the moon, where they find themselves entangled in a full-scale war between the King of the Moon and the King of the Sun over colonization. The Sun King wins the war, and then both parties decide to come to a peace agreement. Lucian then describes life on the moon and how it differs from life on Earth. Now, can everybody see what the theme was here?
No, I'm a little confused.
Well, the theme is interplanetary warfare, imperialism, and Lucian's encounter with alien life forms, aka the Sun and Moon Kings and their subjects. Now, did Lucian seem to be promoting exploration and colonization?
Well, yeah, I think he seems to be promoting it. He paints a vivid picture of colonization and imperialism by using the war between the Sun and Moon Kings. His story begins with him recruiting a crew of volunteers to sail across an ocean, so he doesn't begin his journey with the hope of colonization or imperialism. Instead, he is driven by curiosity to see what lies beyond that which he has ever known. Lucian is at a point just trying to survive his journey, but in the end he ends up leaving the reader wondering if his journey was even worth the effort.
Moving on to our next theme, novum.
You're going to have to explain this one as well.
Well, novum is a scientifically plausible innovation used by science fiction narratives, for those who don't know. But let's look at H.G. Wells' The First Men in the Moon. The narrator is a London businessman named Bedford who withdraws to the countryside to write a play in the hopes of alleviating his financial problems. He is bothered every afternoon by a passerby making weird noises. After 2 weeks, Bedford confronts the man, who he learns to be a reclusive physicist named Mr. Caver. Bedford befriends Mr. Caver when he learns that he is developing a revolutionary new material called Caverite that can negate the force of gravity. Bedford sees the commercial production of Caverite as a possible source of, and I quote, wealth enough to work any sort of a revolution. But not really seeing Bedford's views, Caver instead counters with the idea of building a spaceship made of Caverite. He persuades Bedford to undertake a voyage to the moon in a spaceship made of Caverite. Caver seems completely certain that there's no life there, but as we read, he is later proven wrong.
Now, what's the novum that characterizes this story as science fiction?
Well, Bedford and Caver succeed in visiting the moon in a Caverite spaceship. It's pretty conceivable that one day a spaceship made of something, possibly the non-existent Caverite, could be built and it could possess the ability to travel to the moon. It's also vaguely possible that there is some sort of extraterrestrial civilization inhabiting the interior of the moon. Aliens could be on the moon.
Now, on to the next theme, the moon. Our reading of Lucian's
Icaro
gave us a fun and exciting look into a story about voyagers traveling to the moon. It tells of a cynic philosopher named Menippus who fashions a set of wings for himself and flies to heaven. There he receives a guided tour from Zeus himself. Zeus then announces his decision to destroy all philosophers because he thinks all they do is bicker. But he agrees to grant them a temporary reprieve until the spring. There's also another dialogue written in parallel to
Icaro Menippus
called
Necromantia.
where rather than flying to heaven, Menipus decides to descend to the underworld to consult the prophet
Tiresias.
Dun, dun, dun.
I personally really like this next theme.
What is it?
Invention and body hacking. The first of our readings was Prometheus Bound, a play about the mythical titan Prometheus and the punishment he must endure, all because he gave humans fire. On page 14 of the play, Prometheus claims to have given humans hope in order to prevent them from imagining their deaths, and fire, which was said to be the source of all human art, aka technology, medicine, and philosophy.
People have said that hope and fire are the two key ingredients of all science fiction, right?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, to be human is to hope. Our ability to dream and to cast our imagination beyond the boundaries of reality are all parts of what makes us human. We adventure, we explore, we strive to learn and grow, even in the face of personal trauma and global disasters. Hope is what gives us strength, and science fiction embodies that in many ways. Science fiction represents endless possibilities and fuels beliefs that there could be something wild and wonderful out there that we haven't discovered yet. Even in the face of imminent danger and death, we maintain the ability to be brave and to persevere in the hope of achieving a better existence.
Now, on to utopias, dystopias, and utopias.
Did you say utopias twice?
Well, there's two, but they're spelled differently. Before we get into that, let's first discuss what they are. A utopia with an E is a place in which human society, natural conditions, etc., are so ideally perfect that there is complete contentment. And a dystopia is a fictional world where people live under a highly controlled totalitarian system.
What's a totalitarian system?
It's a system of government that commonly has a dictator and requires complete subservience to the state.
Kind of like North Korea.
A great example of a story with a dystopian setting is The Hunger Games.
Ooh, I actually really loved the Hunger Games movies.
Me too. What was your favorite?
I liked the fourth one, Mockingjay Part 2? Or actually, is that the fourth one?
I think so.
I like that one because the revolution she started finally comes to an end and she comes out victorious.
Yes. Okay, in relation to classics as a study, why do you think Greece and Rome play such a prominent role in contemporary American narratives about political systems?
Well, that was a mouthful, huh?
Yeah, it kind of was. Well, I had recently read the story of Theseus and I drew major similarities between the particular story and the Hunger Games. In the story of Theseus, he and a select few of other Athenian youth were sent as tribute to the king of Crete. The king would then in turn sacrifice them to a murderous beast called the Minotaur, who lived in a sort of maze. In the Hunger Games, tributes were chosen to be thrown into a sort of maze-like environment to battle each other for victory. In both stories, tributes are chosen against their wills to battle for survival. I believe that the author of the Hunger Games had to have either read or heard of the story of Theseus, and perhaps she paralleled her books accordingly. Because like Theseus, the protagonist of the Hunger Games, Katniss, defies an oppressive government and sparks a revolution.
No, I didn't know that. Now, on to our final theme, the Gaia hypothesis.
Which is?
It's a theory put forward by James Lovelock stating that living matter on the Earth collectively defines and regulates the material conditions necessary for the continuance of life. An example would be Earth, or rather the biosphere. It is a vast self-regulating organism.
Do you think the Gaia hypothesis is a convincing argument?
I think it's pretty convincing considering I can actually see the Earth being a self-regulating system. And that's it for my final project with the themes of imperialism, Novum, the moon, invention and body hacking, utopias, dystopias, and the Gaia hypothesis.
Peace out.